Clerk will call the roll.
Glenn Whitley, County Judge. Roy C. Brooks, Commissioner Precinct 1.
Present.
Andy H. Wynn, Commissioner Precinct 2.
Here.
Gary Fickus, Commissioner Precinct 3.
Here.
J.D. Johnson, Commissioner Precinct 4.
Here.
Constitutes a quorum.
All right, thank you. Our invocation today is going to be brought to us by J.D. Warren, the minister out at Bethesda Baptist Church in Saginaw. Is he here? And before the invocation, I would like to make a couple of announcements. We got a call this morning that Judge Whitley's mother passed away. And also we received a notice that we had a Marine Corporal, Philip McGeeth, from Arlington that was killed in Afghanistan. So before the invocation, I would like a moment of silence for both of these people and ask the court members if you would please close today's meeting in their name.
Yes, sir.
Thank you very much. Yes, sir, if you will give us our invocation. Please remain standing for the pledges after the invocation, please.
Mr. Commissioners, thank you for the opportunity to pronounce this invocation. Let's pray. Most High God, creator of all the universe, sustainer of life, upholder of justice, all power is yours, all is governed by your will, but you are also Father of mercy, God of all grace, bestower of comfort and peace. Who are we, men and women, that you would be mindful of us? You are mindful of us in that you give us civil governments to rule over us and to promote that which is good and right and just, and to restrain what is evil. We know from the first question and the Westminster Confession that our chief end is to glorify you, God, and to enjoy you forever. And one of the greatest acts of worship that we can offer to you is to love you with all our heart, soul, mind, and strength, and also to love our neighbor as ourself. This is what we are doing today in promoting what is good by promoting love of our neighbors, that the decisions made in this court this morning will affect literally tens of thousands of people in this county. We ask that you would grant wisdom in this court today. Would you stir our minds and hearts and affections toward that which is just and right. It's in Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Agenda announcements. Mr. Mangus.
Thank you, Commissioner. We have one announcement this morning. It concerns the Sheriff's Department agenda items. The item 9J2, which is the authorization for an impress fund on the Missions Enforcement Task Force. There was one minor correction that we made in the court communication. The monies will be placed in the Sheriff's State Fund rather than the federal fund. So we've already corrected your court communications, and whenever you pass that, if you'll just note that in minutes.
All
Thank
right.
you, Commissioner.
Thank you. We have our minutes of January the 31st.
Move approval of the minutes.
Second.
Motion made and second. Is there any discussion? Please vote. Push my button down over there if you would, please. Thank you. Motion passes. Proclamations and resolutions. We have First, Commissioner Brooks, you have one on True Vine Missionary Baptist Church Day.
Yes, sir, that is for ratification only. It will be presented this Sunday. I move its ratification.
Second.
Motion made and second. Is there any discussion? Please vote. Vote is unanimous.
Yes, sir. I move for the ratification of resolution to Grandparent Unity Coalition and a resolution for the Junior League of Arlington to be presented later.
Second.
Motion made and second to approve both of these resolutions. Any discussion? There being none, please vote. Vote is unanimous. And now we get to the part that Judge Whitley always thoroughly enjoys, and I dread when I'm sitting in this chair. But anyway, because of the notes that Judge Whitley had made, he had called the people that we're going to acknowledge today and tell you a little bit about, and I've read through these once. So please bear with me today as we go through the recognition of county employees, and I'll try to get it done. If I can find my list now to get started. Like I said, we're very organized. I have it. Okay, first our 5-year employees, and we have several. Our first from the county clerk's office is Etel Vina Acosta. And if you recognize, is that close to what your name is? Thank you. Our next one is Ivy Altal. Is there an Ivy here? All right. Teresa Butler, CSCD. Albert Castaneda, Sheriff's Patrol. Jelaine Corrigan, CSCD. Rosalind Davis, Public Services. Vanessa Duran, Public Health. Paul Igusha. Is there a Paul here? Public Health. I'm sorry, from Sheriff Confinement. Gina Fung, Juvenile Services. Sharon Gregory, CSCD. Kelly Griffin, CSCD. Manuel Herrera, Elections. Donna Martin, Sheriff's Confinement. Barbara Murphy, Criminal Court Support. Heather Solomon, CSCD. Miranda Scarborough, County Clerk. Veronica Seahurst, Public Health. Teresa Tobillo, Constable Precinct 3. Matthew Weaver, Auditor's Office. Olinda Westmoreland, District Attorney's Office. Tremel Wood, Sheriff Confinement. All right, let's give these 5-year employees. And I'm going to ask, did we miss anyone? Okay. Our 10-year employees, Alan Guerrera, Juvenile Services. Mitzi Johnson, Public Health. Jerry Jones, Sheriff Confinement. I didn't know Jerry had moved over here. Public Health. Sonera McDaniels, 96th District Court. Jennifer Mendez, District Clerk. Melba Milligan, Tax Office. Maribel Montelongo, Tax Office. Juvenile Services. And not this Andy Wynn, but Andy Wynn from Juvenile Services. James Perales, Precinct 4. He wasn't able to be here today. Josephine Peters, Juvenile Services. Greg Shugart, Criminal Court Support. Donald Smith, County Clerk. Virgil Tyndall, Public Health. And those are our 10-year employees. Let's get them. 15-year employees, Ada Carpenter, CSCD. Wesley Isaacs, Sheriff's North Patrol. Richard Lassiter, Facilities Management. Gracie Marr, Domestic Relations. Jason Peters, County Clerk. Christopher Salone, Constable Precinct 7. John Shelton, Sheriff's Court. Joy Taylor, Probate Court Number 2. Sherry Walters, Sheriff Confinement. Rosalind Williams, Housing Assistance. Those are our 15-year employees. Thank you. 20-year employees, Regina Bauer, Sheriff Confinement. Ricky Kemp, 213th District Court. Edmund Choice, Sheriff Courts. Constable Jerry Crowder, Tarrant County Precinct 1. No, Jerry's here. He's in my office earlier. Ellis Evans, Sheriff Training. Dewey Michael, Precinct 3 Maintenance. Jesse Ruiz, Sheriff Booking. Paul Stevens, Sheriff Warrants. Ann Swinson, District Attorney's Office. Jessica Tupp, Sheriff Confinement. George Williams, Facility Management. Facilities Maintenance, excuse me. Jamie Williams, Sheriff Booking. Thomas Witherspoon, Sheriff Courts. And Dale Young, Sheriff Courts. Okay, now if I can find the notes that the judge was so good about taking, we'll get into the ones we're going to give a little special recognition to. First is Richard Alpert, District Attorney's Office. Richard, thank you for being here this morning. Now, all of these notes are what the judge had given me that y'all said. And Richard, some of these I'm going to leave out. I don't believe them. He started in Collin County, was fired when new DA elected. The best thing he said that could have happened to him. He called Steve Cheney with the DA's office here in Tarrant County and was hired within 2 weeks. Great. Talked about incredible reputation that the department has, and can't say enough about Tim Curry, and we all had a lot of respect for Tim. Directs 2 schools statewide for prosecutors. Met his wife Karen through the county. At the time she worked in another area. He wanted to qualify that, I think. Lives in North Richland Hills. They have 3 children. He hopes to retire from Tarrant County, and Richard, we hope that you do too. New work for the last 5 years, he's done new work in DWI. We're a model, especially in the no refusal area. Sad that we lost him, but Joe is currently supportive, and Joe is doing us an outstanding job. Has 2 great bosses who support him. Never thought, having grown up in Dallas, that he would live in Fort Worth. But once you come to Tarrant County, you always want to come back.
That's it.
Daughter is in Austin in college, one in marching band, and son deep in athletics. Well, Richard, we appreciate the service that you've done to Tarrant County, and we're glad that they did fire you up there in that other county. Thank you for being here. Next, we have, I hope that's next on the list, Gary Douglas, CSCD. There he is. Gary has 25 years service. He started with facilities, worked there for 3 years, then with CSCD for 17 years as transportation driver. His most memorable moment was that he started with Mr. Smith. And what you like most is getting out and move around via sitting at desk all day. Well, I agree with you. I like that better too. And the least that he likes is being associated with the state rather than Tarrant County. Over the last 5 years, still enjoys getting out and interacting with people. Has a daughter who's graduated from high school, going to college in Huntsville, Alabama. Still enjoying his work. Well, Gary, we're certainly happy that you're here with Tarrant County and hope you're here many more years. Thank you. Next is Andy Ledbetter, District Clerk. It says Andrea, and then it's got Andy in parentheses. You go by Andy?
Yes, sir. My
Okay.
wonderful boy,
Andy is a good name.
She started in the Sheriff's Department with Carpenter, Sheriff Carpenter, and then worked with Sheriff Williams, booking, then civil warrants, then transferred to the District Clerk's office. Most memorable moments was a lot of things, but none that I can repeat. And, National Anthem Day, Waters Her Eyes. And what you like most about Tarrant County is the people, and we hear that a lot up here. What she likes least is leaving her car in Tandy parking lot, the green bologna that they serve in the jail, and the smell of the jail. But over the last 5 years had been in family section, now in civil, making new friends and keep in touch with old ones. Number of folks she knows has retired. Mom's gone through 2 surgeries and still fighting. Recognizes her husband. Oh, recognize her husband if he is here. Is your husband here? Would you please stand? I told you I'm reading Judge Whitman's notes. and I don't have your name. Steve? Steve, thank you for being here. And she looks forward to talking with the judge in another 5 years. Well, I certainly hope you're here to talk to the judge in another 5 years. I hope the judge is here. Let's give her a round of applause. All right. I don't know if this is next on the list or not. The next one I have is Barbara Polly.
No.
That's the 30. Is she here, though? I was told she probably is not, but she's celebrating 30 years from juvenile services. So we,
Huh?
which one?
Paul Sykes?
Have it. Next is Paul Sykes,
There you go.
Sheriff Confinement, Laundry. Oh, they ought to have you over there wrestling prisoners in jail. Or you can ride around with me anytime you want. Paul started in Belknap Detention Officer. He's now in support services at the Laundry. Most memorable moment, he said, is the whole experience of working at the sheriff's office. What you like most is people, benefits, and friends.
Right.
And the least, he says, he couldn't think of anything. Anything else, hopes to be around for a long time. And did I cut somebody off of it?
It's okay, it's okay.
Okay. Over the last 5 years, he says the 5 years have gone fast, getting older and bigger. Still loves what he does. Came when he was 23 years old, still married, kids are grown and gone. One teaches school in Frisco, the other works for an auto group in the area. Slipped on ice and had to have surgery on shoulder last year, but it is doing much better. But we're certainly glad your shoulder's doing better, and we're very proud, Paul, of the service that you've given to Tarrant County. Thank you. And I guess last but not least is Jim Skidmore, Sheriff's Department, 25 years. Jim? And I guess I've known you for the full 25 years. I've been around that long also. Jim started as entry-level detention officer in the Sheriff's Department. Before, he had worked for Fort Worth Police Department. In 1987, came to Tarrant County, assistant to warden, jail administration, sergeant, lieutenant, major, liaison, and oversight for Green Bay Project. Most memorable moments, he led the team that opened first true direct supervision unit in state of Texas, October the 9th, 1989, Green Bay. He said it was very interesting. Never had been done before take existing building and converting into jail. Well, we did have some good times going through that, didn't we? Worked closely with GK and Gary Kirby, did all in less than 90 days. And we were working under a court order, and I can tell you, we did put a jail together that a lot of people throughout the state and the nation have come out to look at. It's a money-saving facility that really has helped Tarrant County, and it got us out of a bind back when jail standards was all over us. What you like most, he's able to help train, mentor people coming up through the ranks of the department, and least of all, some of the tragedies that he has experienced. And Glenn says, anything else? Encountered inmate at a mall after 18 years in prison, and the man thanked him for the treatment he had received while in the county jail.
Wow.
Letter from inmate, first-time offender, indicating that the way he was treated helped turn him around. Real sense of satisfaction in helping people. No matter how bad things got, he never thought about leaving. He always knew things would get better. Is very proud to have had the opportunity to work with the current sheriff. And over the last 5 years, he was chief deputy for a couple of years and went back as a captain in supportive services. Been doing a lot of new hire training, release of inmates in other areas. Jail inspections, couldn't believe the time we were claiming for air pack drill. So we demonstrate and started a direct competition. Jim won with 17 seconds. They recorded it and now show it to other counties around the state. They now do it each year on the last day of jail inspection. His wife also is with Tarrant County, and she is retiring at the end of March. They had a plan and are now completing it. Is she here with you today? You want to stand up, Ms. Skidmore? He loves the fact that he has always felt he could help people, whether they are employees or citizens. Well, Jim, you've helped a lot of people throughout the years, and we thank you for your services and appreciate your wife being here with you today. Let's give them a round of applause. Did I miss anyone that was to be recognized today? We're doing good, aren't we?
Did you miss anybody with a spouse in the room?
Did I miss any other with spouses in the room today?
All right.
I thought I had them all.
You're right.
Okay, the court's going to take just a short break and allow everyone to go over to, what is it, 504C?
That's it.
Where we have refreshments for retirees and their friends. So we'll take a short break and allow you time to get over to that. Reconvene.
We're not retiring.
Call Commissioners Court back to order.
Before you get back on agenda, Mr. Chairman, could you allow me a point of personal privilege?
I certainly will.
On February the 2nd, the Tarrant County Commissioners Court was presented an award by New Day Services, which is a fatherhood initiative that works in conjunction with Child Protective Services. And this award reads, New Day Services for Children and Families Randy Thomas Community Servant Award, presented to Tarrant County Commissioners Court in recognition of the extraordinary contribution it has made to furthering New Day's mission to bring hope and healing to children and families in the Tarrant County community. And it references Matthew 25:40, which I believe states that inasmuch as you have done these things for the least of these, you have done them for me.
All right, thank you, Commissioner.
Great program.
Thank you for bringing that to our attention. I apologize that I didn't make that dinner that night. I remember an invite, but I had another obligation. All right, consent agenda.
Move approval of the consent agenda.
Second.
Motion made and second, approve the consent agenda, and there was one change with wording change, if you recall.
Right.
The motion includes that change.
Any further discussion? Please vote. Vote is unanimous. We don't have any public hearings today. Mr. Administrator.
Thank you, Commissioner. If we might go back to agenda announcements, there's one other item that we will not be considering today, and that's under the Transportation Department, item 9L1. This concerns the order to vacate Dayton Road. The reason that we're not doing that, by law, we're required to have a 5-0 vote on that, and since we have an absence on the court this morning, we will simply hold that for next week.
Okay, thank you.
Members of the court, if we could go to the administrator's section, go to item A1, we're requesting that the court approve an agreement between Tarrant County and Cornerstone Assistance Network, which will provide reentry services for persons which are within the county jail and post-release, and coordinate the program evaluation on behalf of UT Arlington. You might recall that that in earlier mid-January we brought to you a grant award from the Amon Carter Foundation, and this is a contract that will initiate that award.
And this is an outstanding program, and I want to thank the sheriff and the courts and the Cornerstone Assistance Network. Mike Doyle is sitting back there, for their collaboration on bringing reentry services into the county jail. When we started on the reentry pathway many years ago, the thought was to bring together interested parties to structure a reentry program for citizens of Tarrant County, but that Tarrant County administration did not want to be in the service delivery business. We wanted to empower community-based organizations and department heads to take up this cause and come up with creative solutions, and this is one such project. It is a public-private collaboration, and in my opinion, it's the right way to go on reentry services. So I move approval of this contract.
A1.
A1.
Second.
Motion made and second. Any further discussion? There being none, please vote. Vote is unanimous.
And thank you to the Amon Carter Foundation
Yes.
for the dollars to do this.
Members of the Court, on item number 2, this is also a contract between Tarrant County and Cornerstone as it relates to providing community-based resource coordination of currently and present and previously incarcerated persons in the Tarrant County area. This particular funding is funding that the Commissioners Court had approved also, and it furthers the ideals and the concepts that Commissioner Brooks just spoke of.
Same speech. Move approval.
Second. Motion made and second to approve. Any discussion? Please vote. Vote is unanimous.
Members of the Court, on item number 3, Ms. McMillan is going to address the Court at this time.
Okay.
Commissioners, we're asking you today to consider approval of a tax abatement agreement with the county and Bell Helicopter. Back in November, we brought before you a request for tax abatement as it relates to a project that Bell Helicopter is proposing to invest $235 million in construction of new facilities, renovation and expansion of existing buildings, and consolidation of various facilities in the Fort Worth area to its main headquarters campus in Fort Worth off of Highway 10. These improvements include approximately $75 million in real property improvements for construction of a new headquarters and administration building.
What was that number?
I'm sorry?
How much was that number?
$75 million in real property improvements. That included the headquarters administration building, an employee center, and training academy, and other renovations to real property. And also the installation and location of over $160 million in non-inventory personal property improvements in multiple phases that are to be completed by the end of 2015. Bell Helicopter's plans to modernize its facility and improve operational efficiencies by consolidating several of the locations to one site in hopes to enable the company to remain competitive for the long term. Currently, Bell employs over 6,000 people in the Tarrant County area. About 1,500 of those are located in the Arlington and Grand Prairie site, and these sites will remain as they are. But Bell will consolidate its Alliance Training Center and Customer Service Center, a small warehouse off of Highway 121, and its Logistics Center and Repair and Overhaul Center in Roanoke, Denton County, to the headquarters site location. And a portion of those jobs from the Roanoke facility will also be going to their central distribution center that's located in Centerport in Tarrant County also. Under the agreement, Bell then will retain and locate 4,500 employees to the headquarters site. Currently, there's about 3,900 employees at that site, and then those consolidations will make that total about 4,500. The City of Fort Worth has approved a tax abatement and economic development agreement at a maximum of 80% over 20 years. The agreement you have before you is for a tax abatement for 10 years at a maximum rate of 70%. The base abatement starts at 50% for a minimum 4,500 jobs, the minimum investment levels, and construction contracting with DBEs of at least 15% of the construction cost, and with Tarrant County contractors of 25% of the cost, and overall spending annually of $1 million at least with Tarrant County companies, and a minimum of $500,000 a year with DBE companies. Now, up to 20% additional abatement can be added to reach that 70% for added employment, for added percentage of Tarrant County employment, and increased use of DBEs in construction contracting. And it's important to note that any year that employment does fall below the 4,500, there will be a penalization in the agreement, and they will lose percentage abatement. We are estimating that the value of the 70% abatement from the county and hospital district is approximately $4.4 million over the 10-year period. That's approximately $2.3 million from the county and just over $2 million from the hospital district. Over that same time period, the new investment will gain Tarrant County and the hospital district just over $1.8 million over that 10-year period in new tax revenues. The county and hospital district will continue to receive the over $1.4 million that the Bell Helicopter is currently paying in taxes on that base value currently. That will still be on the tax rolls. We are asking you today to approve the tax abatement agreement that you have before you at a maximum of 10 years for 70% of the abatement as set forth in the agreement, and to approve the resolution you have before you that authorizes the execution of the agreement.
All right. Are there any questions of Lisa?
I've got a couple.
Yes, sir.
Lisa, you made a comment that they have 1,600 employees in Arlington and Grand Prairie.
They have approximately 1,200 employees at the Grand Prairie location and approximately 300 at the Arlington facility, 1,500.
Okay, and those employees are going to move to this facility?
No, those employees will stay.
Stay.
Those facilities will remain the
And
same.
the Alliance relocation is how many employees?
Just over 550, I think, about 550.
And that facility's in Tarrant County?
Yes, it is.
Now, the Roanoke location, how many employees?
There's about 400 employees, and
Is that Denton County?
it's in Denton County. And those employees, a few will be coming to the main headquarters site. A good number of those will be going to the distribution center that's in Centerport. And I believe, I'll let Brian address that, but I think some of them actually may be going to the Grand Prairie location that's in Tarrant County also. But they're all coming, all those jobs are coming to Tarrant County.
Okay. And it's 50% abatement with 20% incentives?
Correct.
Okay.
Brian Chase, who is Bell's Manager of Government and Community Affairs, is here to address any other questions you may have.
The
Go ahead.
4,500 employee base that we are using as a threshold to measure employment, is that only at the headquarters site, right?
That is
doesn't
only at-
count the surrounding.
Correct.
locations.
That's only the headquarters site. That's
45.
taking the
Okay.
3,900 that are there now and the addition of the consolidation that were already here in the Fort Worth area, consolidating to 4,500. The other 1,500 that are at Grand Prairie and Arlington will stay there.
Okay,
But the 4,500 is only for the headquarters site.
but it will not be counted toward the
Right.
threshold.
And that doesn't count the Centerport site either, only the headquarters site.
Thank you.
I would like to encourage Mr. Chase, where are you? Come on up. This maximum DBE participation under the base plan of $500,000 out of a $75 million project is about 0.6%. That is pitiful. So I would like to encourage you to earn the rest of this abatement by using some of the very fine DBE contractors that we have in this community.
Absolutely. And we've already started the outreach to contractors that could help us in the project. We also have specific instructions with whatever primary contractors we ultimately select. If they're not DBE themselves, they will have specific requirements to go out and recruit heavily. We do expect, and we have an objective to beat the baseline requirements in the agreement. That is certainly what we are going to strive to do.
Commissioner, I just need to clarify, the $500,000, that's an annual supply and services. The janitorial, that's the annual supply and services. They are committed to do 15% of the construction contracting cost to DBEs.
Okay, let me follow up just
Go ahead.
quickly. That's on the 75, or is that on the other 160?
It's on the $75 million, the construction cost.
Construction cost.
Okay.
I'm sorry I heard you wrong, but still 15% is too low a number, considering that we have an urban county and many qualified DBE contractors. If you look at every county building construction contract that we now have going, we've got DBE contractors at work, and the percentage is well north of 25.
And I certainly think that we will be able to achieve more than what's in the baseline, but I absolutely hear that, and we'll take it back and ensure we have a very aggressive outreach program.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Any other questions? Did you have any further comments you wanted to make?
I did, sir. Yes, if you don't mind, I'll
If you
just let
just state your name and your position for the...
Yes, sir. My name is Brian Chase. I manage our Government and Community Affairs Department at Bell Helicopter. Thank you for the opportunity to appear this morning. We are certainly very proud to be a longtime member of the Fort Worth aerospace community. We're especially proud that our products are on the front lines supporting the men and women in the armed forces and involved in other mission-critical commercial and civil roles around the globe. We're very excited about this partnership that will cement Tarrant County and Fort Worth as Bell Helicopter's global headquarters. As part of a long-range strategic plan, Bell Helicopter is consolidating and upgrading its facilities, strengthening its positions as one of the leading employers in Tarrant County and the aviation industry. Bell Helicopter is investing in the revitalization of its facilities, providing both current and future employees a modern, safe, and comfortable place to work, and allowing us to attract and retain the most talented workforce in the industry. By locating many of our operations that are now spread across the region, we'll be able to streamline operations to become even more cost competitive and responsive to our customers worldwide in what is an increasingly hyper-competitive global environment. We appreciate the county's willingness to partner with us in this important revitalization effort. The resources that you bring to the table will enable us to maintain Tarrant County as our global headquarters, as well as consolidated operations currently outside of the county. We certainly understand the tough decisions that must be made when it comes to the county budget, so we're committed to being a good partner with you. We'll be investing $235 million in our new facilities and operations, and many hundreds of millions more in research and development. We believe this investment will be good not just for our customers and employees, but the county as a whole and indeed the entire region. We fully support the proposed agreement before the Commission this morning, and I'd like to commend both GK and Lisa for helping us make this partnership a reality. I'd be pleased to answer any questions you may have, and thank you for your time.
Are there any other questions?
Very good. Thank you, Commissioners.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
I'll have an audience participation form from Tana McPeak. Yes, ma'am. State your name and address for the record, please.
Janae McPeak. My address is 1917 Gettysburg Place. I live in Bedford. Commissioners, I would like to speak to the issue of the Bell Helicopter tax abatement. I want to make it clear that I, more than anyone, or maybe Mr. Chase in this room, want Bell Helicopter to be competitive and succeed. As a stakeholder of Bell Helicopter stock, an employee of Bell Helicopter, and as a tax-paying contributor of Tarrant County, I want Bell to thrive here at the Fort Worth headquarters. The proposal by Bell Helicopter, as written and presented, should not be approved without some additional commitments by Bell Helicopter, and here are some of the reasons. The proposal indicates that the 4,500 jobs are Bell Textron employed full-time jobs. But this is an inaccurate reflection of true sustainable employment in Tarrant County. Textron employees can be located anywhere, but be on the employment records of Bell Helicopter, and this issue should be addressed by the Commission. Additionally, there should be greater penalties for any reduction of employment numbers. There needs to be clear, specific commitments by Bell Helicopter of sustainable jobs in Tarrant County. In the agreement, there was a reference to the main facility located at Highway 10, but there was an additional phrase added in this in the agreement of the vicinity. Please have Bell Helicopter explain to you exactly what that means when they say the vicinity. After the move from Alliance and Roanoke, we will have 4 facilities, and they will all be located in Tarrant County. If that were to happen today, there would be 6,441 jobs, and they are promising you 4,500. Is it the intent of Bell Helicopter to reduce jobs in the vicinity? And that's extremely important. What is the economic benefit to Tarrant County? The gross disparity of financial benefit to Bell Helicopter versus the detrimental effect to the tax-paying citizens of this community should be addressed. The proposal refers to the project site, and after all the construction is completed, they then refer to the vicinity, again saying 4,500. Again, currently, there's 6,441 employees in the vicinity. They were actively laying off employees locally as they prepared the proposal and first addressed the county. There are more layoffs scheduled, and the jobs are being moved to Amarillo. For too long, Bell Helicopter has pitted Amarillo against Fort Worth and Tarrant County, and this constant tug of war between two communities is destroying good-paying, middle-class jobs, decreasing revenues in both cities. It is unacceptable for a multi-billion-dollar company to ask local taxpayers to accept the burden of reduced tax revenue while providing no real employment opportunities and growth to the community, long or short term. Finally, I would like to reiterate the fact that there should be a significant economic benefit, specifically retaining good-paying, middle-class jobs for Tarrant County to rationalize such a large tax break. While we value Bell Helicopter's current contribution to Tarrant County's local economy, it is incumbent upon this body to ensure that Tarrant County continues growing by ensuring that businesses invest in our local community. I thank you very much for your time and consideration.
All right. Thank you. Any questions of Ms. McPeak?
I want to thank Ms. McPeak for her courage.
Thank you for allowing me to speak.
Thank you.
Let me
And
ask-
I'd like to hear what Brian
Yeah.
and Lisa have to say about it.
I did want to clarify, because I believe the City of Fort Worth's agreement may be a little different than ours, because when the City of Fort Worth is looking at theirs, they are also looking at the Centerport site. However, for the tax abatement, and this in front of you, in the agreement, we do identify premises as being the reinvestment zone, and that reinvestment zone is solely the boundaries of the headquarters site, which is headquartered by, I don't know the actual boundaries, I've got them in here, but it's Highway 10 to the north, Trinity Boulevard to the south, Bell Spur. It's that square that makes up that headquarters campus. So that is defined as the premises. And the other thing that Ms. McPeak...
$4,500.
And the 4,500 jobs.
Guaranteed.
And the jobs is defined in our agreement as permanent full-time positions with Bell Helicopter that result in employment on the premises. And again, the premises is defined as that location. So again, I'm not sure how Fort Worth's agreement reads, but in our agreement, the jobs are going to be located on the premises, and those premises is only that headquarters location.
But the agreement doesn't speak to the other, 1,600 jobs?
No, because it's only in reference to that headquarters site. Those other jobs are not counted in that 4,500, only those jobs on the premises.
So we're looking at the location in Grand Prairie, Arlington, and I guess Centerport?
And Centerport. And I think
could contain that other 1,400, 1,500, 1,600 jobs.
correct. Right now, there's about 1,500 at the Grand Prairie and Arlington locations, and I'll let Brian address about 125, I believe, are currently at the Centerport facility, and some of those Roanoke positions are going to be going over to the Centerport facility.
So just simply to augment, so what's located at what we call Plant 1 and 2, which is just in that vicinity of State Road 10. And I think the only reason we use the term vicinity was because there is a Plant 1 off of State Road 10, and then there's also a Plant 2 below that. It was simply a way of referencing that general area. But as Lisa indicated, the actual agreement has very specific geographic boundaries that indicate where those jobs have to go into. And we're not doing, the reinvestment funding that we're talking about in this money doesn't include any of the activities at Grand Prairie or Arlington. Although we are doing some reinvestment in those locations, this pot of money does not include that. And therefore, the agreement and the incentive package only applies to that geographic area south of State Road 10.
And currently, you have 3,900 jobs at that facility?
Yes, sir, in that
location?
in that ballpark. And then we'll move in
Defined by the boundaries that Lisa has?
Yes, sir. And then we'll move in the folks from Alliance. We'll move in, there's a few other areas, a few other office facilities we have scattered in the area where there's another several hundred people they'll be moving in. So that's what will constitute the 4,500. And then in Roanoke, we have 3 operations up there. We have a warehouse operation. We have a team of logistics professionals there. We also have a refurbishing location for blades, rotorcraft blades, and also transmissions that we do for the military. That operation will be split up and moved to a variety of areas, but mostly at Plant 1 and 2 off of State Road 10, partially in Grand Prairie and partially in Centerport. So those functions are being split out, but those are all moving from Denton County into Tarrant County.
What are your plans for the Grand Prairie and the Arlington location?
Those facilities will remain in place. When we looked at the revitalization and consolidation activities, we did not look at anything that what we would call legacy facilities that had major pieces of equipment or otherwise difficult to relocate for any reason. So those are going to remain for the long term. Plant 5 in Grand Prairie is our manufacturing site for transmissions. That's only going to increase as we increase our commercial activities. Our Arlington facility is a center of flight test and also research and development. That also is going to be ramping up as we have, you've seen reported in the press, we have a new commercial helicopter on the way that we'll be actually unveiling this weekend. And that there's going to be a lot of testing and operations of that ultimately and at that location and other high
So do you have any
value
plan
R&D work.
to reduce headcount in those two locations?
No, sir.
No, not at all.
No, sir. Now, I will say that across the board, when you look at Bell, and what Ms. McPeak referenced, is we will be making periodic adjustments, as any business must, look at where is it most efficient to locate a certain type of job. And so there will be periodic adjustments. We'll remove folks to, whether it could be Amarillo, could be Canada, could be other places internationally. We could also move positions from those locations back to Fort Worth. So as we have to adjust to the business environment, we'll have to make periodic adjustments, and that's just a natural ebb and flow of what we have to do as a business because we operate in a very competitive environment and we operate globally. So we have to have that flexibility to maintain that competitive position. But in terms of major reductions, absolutely not. No, sir.
Bottom line, you're committed to 4,500 jobs within that boundary.
Yes, sir.
That is defined by the agreement.
Yes, sir.
And you have no plans to reduce the head count at the other two facilities in Tarrant County?
We do not, but again,
I know that they're not covered by the agreement.
Right. We do not have any plans, but again, there's always things where we have to look at for the business. We have to move positions in and out. That's part of the normal flow, but in terms of a major layoff of any kind, absolutely not.
What effect are you anticipating as the federal government is cutting the defense budget? Does it have any effect?
It does.
Operation as well?
It does. They, in fact, just announced that the nature of our new V-22 contract, for example, that production rate has been decreased as a result of budget reduction. So that will have an impact. But what we are working on now, and part of the reason we're doing this revitalization and consolidation effort, is to become more competitive so that we can improve our offerings in the commercial sector. Because as the defense budget drops, we have to become more competitive in the commercial arena. So as we sell those aircraft, and they're very hot markets overseas, we want to be in a position to sell those aircraft in those markets. And that's a lot of what this is about, is becoming more competitive on the commercial side as well. So our hope is that we're going to balance, as much as possible, balance any reductions on the DoD side with the commercial side. The very good news we have on the defense front is that all of our products that are serving the DoD now, which is the V-22, the two variants of the H-1, which is a Cobra and a Huey, essentially, and one for the Army, are all performing very, very well in the field, and they're all gaining very high marks from both the Pentagon and from the commanders in the field. So our equipment is performing very well. It's just a matter of how do we adapt to the reduction in production numbers.
Do you have any relationship with the UTA engineering department to provide engineers for your organization?
We do. We have partnerships with a number of universities, including UTA. We actually have not had a chance to meet the new dean yet, but I'm actually going to meet him next Friday, as a matter of fact, to talk about some of our partnerships in our R&D areas. And we also donate to their scholarship fund to help develop engineers for the future that we may need to hire. And we have internships as well with UTA students.
Thank you for that.
Yes, sir.
Any other questions? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Commissioners, we're asking that you approve Tarrant County and Tarrant County Hospital District participation with the City of Fort Worth in the abatement of ad valorem taxes on the eligible real and personal property improvements made by Bell for a period of 10 years at a maximum abatement percentage of 70% as set forth in the agreement, and also to approve the attached resolution certifying Tarrant County's agreement to participate in tax abatement and authorizing the execution of the abatement agreement.
Move approval.
Second.
Motion made and second to approve. Is there any discussion? There being none, please vote. Vote is unanimous.
Thank you.
Thank you, Lisa. Okay, auditor. Stidwell.
We have two items for the court to consider this morning. The first item is to approve the release of the $249,994,000 of collateral. It's listed in your court communication. Again, the bank balances are decreasing after the collection of the ad valorem taxes at year end.
Move approval.
Second.
Motion made and second. Any discussion? Please vote. Vote is unanimous.
Our other item is to receive and file the Tarrant County financial statements for the 3 months ended December 31st, 2011. And the only thing I would mention to you on page 50, the amount of tax revenue collected through the period of ended December is down from the prior year, but that's not because of an actual decrease in collections. There was a really large mortgage company that paid in January this year instead of December. And when you factor back in that $160 million payment, which approximately $16 million would have been county revenue, we're over last year's percentage.
Move for approval.
Second.
Motion made and second. Any discussion? Please vote. Vote is unanimous. Budget. Ms. Snyder.
Good morning. The Risk Management Board is recommending payment of the claim to the Second Court of Appeals in the amount of $2,152.
Move for approval.
Second.
Motion made and second to approve. Any discussion? Please vote. Vote is unanimous.
Thank you.
County Clerk, Ms. Garcia.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
This morning, I am asking the Commissioner Court to approve a resolution transferring the duties of Vital Statistic Registrar from the town of Edgecliff Village to the County Clerk Office. My office has sufficient resources to absorb the duties without fiscal impact to the county. The transfer will enhance the public access to the records, providing availability at all our sub-courthouses and at the plaza. If approved, the effective date for this transfer will be February 13th.
Move for approval.
Second.
Motion made and second to approve. Any discussion? Being none, please vote. Vote is unanimous.
Thank you.
And also thank you for the contribution to the Tarrant County Junior Livestock.
You're welcome.
Go through a court meeting without mentioning that. It's
And
a week from this
when
coming
is- yeah.
Saturday.
Is it a week from Saturday?
A week from Saturday.
That would be like the 18th.
Yes,
Okay.
we'll- 18th or 19th, whatever day Saturday falls on.
18th.
Okay.
We've all contributed our money.
Pardon?
We've all contributed our money.
And then some.
Speaking of the county administrator contributing, has he contributed again? Second time?
There was a drip.
In so many more ways than one might imagine, Commissioner.
Yes, he did participate.
Okay.
Move to receive and file the personnel agenda.
Second.
Motion made and second to approve the personnel, to receive and file personnel agenda. Please vote. Vote is unanimous.
We have one additional item for the court. In item number 2, we're asking the court to approve amendment number 9 to the senior supplement plan, group health insurance policy, and amendment number 6 to the Medicare Advantage plan, group health services agreement with Pacific Care. So the court recalls these are the plans that we offer to our retirees who are 65 and older. These amendments, in part, detail our 2012 rates. This agreement is effective 1/1 of 2012. And just an important point to mention is that rates for 2012 are down over 2011. Specifically, the senior supplement rates are down 10% from last year, and the Medicare Advantage rates are down 35% from last year. So that's good news.
Move approval.
Second.
Motion made and second to approve. Any discussion?
The service levels are
The service levels
same.
are not impacted. They're exactly the same.
great.
Any other discussion? Please vote. Vote is unanimous.
Thank you very much.
Dennis. Public Health, Ms. Brewer.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
We have one item for your approval this morning, and this is Amendment Number 1 to the fiscal year 2012 Public Health Department fee schedule.
Move for approval.
Second.
Motion made and second to approve. Any questions or discussion? There being none, please vote. Vote is unanimous.
Thank you.
Thank you, Lou.
Purchasing, Mr. Beecham.
Commissioner Johnson, other members of the court, we have just one item for your consideration this morning. We're asking the court for approval of an exemption from the competitive bid requirements, which is allowable under Vernon's Texas Codes, Section 262.024A2, for the purchase of drug reagents, controls, and proficiency testing materials for the health department. These purchases are necessary for us to be a participant in the laboratory response network and adhere to their specific standard testing, as well as validity of biological threat testing directed by the CDC and the LRN.
Move for approval.
Second. Motion made and second to approve. Any discussion? Please vote. Vote is unanimous. Thank you, Jack.
Thank you, sir.
County Judge and Commissioners.
I have
That's you.
That's me. I will move approval of item 9M1A and B.
Second.
Motion made and second. Any discussion? Those have been approved by the DA's office. Please vote. Vote is unanimous. Thank you. Any appointments?
I would like to reappoint Mr. Bruce Kephart back to the board, the CPS board.
Second.
Motion made and second. Any discussion? Please vote. Vote is unanimous. Any other appointments? Any bonds? We have our claims, including the addendum.
Move to approve the claim register and the addendum.
Second.
Motion made and second to approve the claim register and the addendum. Is there any discussion? There being none, please vote. Vote is unanimous. Briefing.
Thank you, Commissioner. We have one item to bring to the court this morning. This is item A concerning the DWI No Refusal Initiative. Mr. Alpert is here to address the court at this time.
Mr. Johnson, members of the court, I appreciate a chance to talk to you about our No Refusal program. Just to give you an overview about where this program comes from, the DWI problem in Texas is no secret. 94,440 DWI arrests occurred in Texas in the year 2010. The refusal rates, and by refusal rates I'm talking about under the Transportation Code, a person pulled over and arrested for DWI has constructively agreed to give a sample of their breath or blood. If they refuse to do so, that refusal can be used against them, but no evidence is generally collected. There have historically been circumstances where mandatory blood can be taken, when there's a death, when there's serious bodily injury, and back in 2009 that was expanded further. But the issue about no refusals is the recognition by prosecutors throughout this state and throughout this country now that having evidence is better than not having evidence, that the ability to deter and affect the continuing conduct that constitutes a crime is going to be impacted by how certain it is that person will be apprehended and that the evidence will be sufficient to support them. Some statistics that I've gathered for the purpose of explaining this, from around 2002, the Texas Court of Criminal Appeals in a case called Beeman ruled that it was proper to use a search warrant to obtain blood samples in misdemeanor DWI cases where the person is otherwise refused. The issue was basically, does a search warrant trump the implied consent law's statement that a person can refuse? And what the court made very clear is that nothing trumps a magistrate issuing a search warrant. Starting in 2005, I, on behalf of my office, started training local law enforcement about this change in the law and encouraging them to get in front of it and to use the ability to use search warrants in aggravated cases, felony DWIs, cases involving accidents. And we conducted approximately 5 of these trainings with groups of about 100 law enforcement from all over our county. The Harris County a prosecutor named Warren DeProm actually took this no refusal initiative and came up with the idea of focusing on holidays. Statistically, if you look at all the holidays, major holidays in Texas, the ones you normally consider, Thanksgiving, New Year's, 4th of July, and of course, being Texas, I'd include Super Bowl weekend, that over 40% of our fatalities in this state occurred during those weekends. And so the program as it was begun in Harris County was you take a weekend like 4th of July and you announce that it's no refusal. You publicize it. You train your law enforcement, get them on board. And the idea is that the publicity of the program going out will hopefully have a deterrent effect on some citizens. And by having more patrols out there, by having increased enforcement, it might affect the fatalities involved. Seeing the success of that program, we started doing that in Tarrant County approximately 2008. We've generally done it on 2 holidays. We've done it on New Year's Eve and on the 4th of July. Participation in police departments began with a handful. The last 4 we've done, we've had 28 police departments. I'd safely say all the major, as far as size, police departments throughout this county have participated. One of the results that we found in these programs is that even though holidays like New Year's and 4th of July are high in fatalities, in the 5 years we've done this, we've had 1 fatality during a no-refusal program, which I attribute again to the fact that we've gotten the word out there and served for enforcement purposes. The alcohol-related fatalities we've had in Tarrant County, in 2009 we had 42 fatalities. We are 3rd in the state of counties, 3rd highest number in the state for fatalities in 2009. We had 1,847 alcohol-related crashes, which places us 4th in the state. Those numbers have been consistent in 2010. We're still 3rd and 4th fatalities and crashes, 53 fatalities, 1,571 total crashes. The next step in trying to justify the program was to look and see if it's actually having an impact on our trials. And unequivocally, the statistics we've collected have shown that it has. First of all, refusal cases rarely go to trial. Regardless of the year you look at, we might have 4 or 5 blood draw cases that are ever taken to trial. When you look at our conviction rate, combining 2009 through 2011, which are the 3 most aggressive years we've used no refusal, we found that in jury trials, we won 57% of our refusal cases, meaning cases where there was no scientific evidence. In breath test cases, our conviction rate was 80%. And in blood draw cases, our conviction rate was 94%. In fact, in 2 of those years, our conviction rate on blood draw cases was 100%. The other impact that we've seen that I think, I can't pretend is completely drawn to this, but I think has been an impact of our high visibility and putting the message out there not to drink and drive, has to do with misdemeanor DWI case filings. In 2008, we had 6,844 misdemeanor DWI cases filed in Tarrant County. By 2009, that number had dropped to 4,839. 2010, it dropped to 4,555, and 2011, it dropped to 4,352. There's lots of factors that go towards affecting the number of arrests, but there's been no dramatic decrease in the amount of police patrols to account for this, and the only thing that I can point to that we have done differently is no refusal weekends, publicizing them, getting the word out, and trying to get the public to drive and behave properly and legally on the roads. So what the goal of the Tarrant County DA's office is, in cooperation with law enforcement, is to find ways to expand this. And we're currently working on a grant proposal that I think we'll be addressing, talking to you all about the next week or so to get the funds we need to expand it. Because that's the most common question we get from the citizens I've talked to and that have called and talked to us and I've talked to at public meetings is, if it's so successful, why aren't we doing it all the time? I can tell you that Bexar County is no refusal all the time. Johnson County is no refusal. Burleson Police Department is no refusal. Dow-Worthington Gardens has been no refusal for 5 or 6 years. Across the state, it has been increasing. This past 4th of July, in the first time in the nation, there was a statewide, in Texas only, no refusal weekend, 4th of July, where counties and law enforcement all over the state participated in this. So this is the future. This is the direction we want to take in the hopes that, one, we continue to lower fatalities, and secondly, just make sure that the evidence that is there is collected legally. And so that's basically what I wanted to talk about today, and I'd be happy to answer any questions anyone has about this program.
I just want to clarify in my
Yes, sir.
mind what the process is.
The
There's a stop.
Yes, sir.
There's reason to suspect that alcohol is involved in whoever has been stopped.
Yes, sir.
There's an attempt to do some sort of, well, they do the field sobriety test and the person fails.
Okay.
Okay. There's an attempt to draw blood. There's a refusal. So that person is then arrested.
What it basically, no, the
person is arrested, then taken to jail.
Right. The person first has to be arrested. In the circumstances you've described, there has to be a legal stop. The officer has to have probable cause that an offense has been committed based upon, it can be based upon doing field sobriety tests. It can be based upon refusing to do field sobriety tests. After they're arrested, they are read a warning called the DIC-24, which basically sets out that you are being asked to provide a sample of, and it's up to the officer. He can say breath or he can say blood. Under the no refusal program, or without the no refusal program, if they say no to that question, we're done. The person is booked, the paperwork is collected, it's submitted to our office. If we approve it, it's a filed case. We call that a refusal case.
But under the no refusal case,
yes, sir.
You would then proceed and get a warrant.
Yes, sir.
And draw this person's blood.
That's correct.
There is a warrant involved.
There is a warrant involved, and the warrant has to be signed and is in every case signed by a neutral magistrate who is relying on a sworn affidavit provided by a peace officer. And then after that warrant is signed, the next challenge is basically finding a place to have the blood draw. There's been various, depending on the police agencies, some have cooperative hospitals, some don't have cooperative hospitals. Our office is actually, the DA has actually provided funds in some instances to pay for a trained phlebotomist or nurse to do the blood draws. And what the other aspect that's changing is more and more police departments are looking to train officers or employees within their department to do blood draws. That's what Dow Worthington Gardens has done for the last 6 years. It's all in-house. Their officers are trained under a doctor's supervision. They're trained phlebotomists. They're qualified to draw blood. And, in fact, their ability to do that and the legality of their program went up to the highest court in Johnston v. State. And the Court of Criminal Appeals said that it is a legal and proper way to draw blood, that we don't have to go to hospitals, that trained individuals in a sanitary setting like the used by Dow Worthington is proper. And more departments are looking at that direction as well.
That was my question. What qualifies as a suitable place to do this at, if you can't go to a hospital?
The statute, the only guidance the statute gives us is sanitary place. In the example of Dow Worthington Gardens, they have a room set aside that they keep clean. Really, the issue is more the proper procedure in drawing the blood, but there has to be some effort and some record to show that the area has been clean. When we do no refusal weekends, if police departments want to use their room that they use for intoxilizers and other things, we ask them to go ahead and do that cleaning. And we've also had a doctor who's come by and looked at the room and seen from a medical standpoint, is there anything that causes him concern?
What's the time frame? Of course, for the defendant, I guess it just gets, the longer you wait, the less alcohol will show in the blood.
Or the more alcohol, depending on whether he's going up or he's going down.
So what is the time frame you try to do this from the time he stopped until you can, I'm assuming you've got to take him to jail, you've got to book him? Mm-hmm.
It's surprisingly, it is actually quicker during a no refusal weekend to get a blood test than it is to get a breath test. That's how streamlined it's become. The officers have computers in their cars, so they're already, upon making the arrest and putting the person in the back of the car, they're already drafting their report and their affidavits. The magistrates in lots of areas, Fort Worth in particular, are right there. Fort Worth PD has reported to me that sometimes in as little as 45 minutes from the time the person's arrested, they have a warrant and they're in the process of drawing a blood sample. That's our biggest challenge. Obviously, the finding ways to provide more resources. If you have to go to a hospital and you have to wait in the emergency room for someone to give you the time you need to get the blood drawn, that can increase it. The longest in reviewing these cases, as we look at the results of our no refusal weekend, sometimes it's over an hour, but most of the blood samples are drawn within an hour of the arrest. And so we always advise the police departments that there's going to be approximately as much as a .02 burn off during that time period. So if there was a case where the levels were low, that would be factored into it. The other amazing thing we've discovered, there's lots of reasons given why people refuse to give a sample. Some claim they're exercising their rights. Some claim that the police didn't treat them fairly. Well, we have found indisputably that everybody we draw mandatory blood from, everybody we draw a sample, over 95% of them have BACs, not just over .08, but over .15. These aren't marginally intoxicated people. These are extremely intoxicated people. And these are people that otherwise would have usually done no test, provided no evidence, and that's what we would have gone to trial with.
You get people claiming religious objections?
I've anecdotally heard about it, but there's never been a blood draw that's been interrupted in Tarrant County because of that particular claim. There have been people that have claimed health reasons, and the police departments have been very responsible about that. If there was a draw being done in the non-hospital environment and there was a medical issue, they would take them to a hospital to do the blood draw.
And where will we test the blood?
Where? Fort Worth PD has its own crime lab. The medical examiners provide services to a number of law enforcement agencies. We have an independent laboratory, IFL, that does the blood draws, and we have DPS. We try to steer them away from using DPS, even though it is free, because the time it takes to get a blood test result from DPS can be 8 to 9 months. And the DA's office is unwilling to wait 8 to 9 months to get the evidence that's going to confirm or disprove that we properly made the arrest. Every laboratory other than DPS has made a commitment to our office. They will do a turnaround in 2 weeks, and we found that to be true. And they've had no trouble keeping up with the numbers currently, though obviously the more successful we are, the more blood samples that are drawn, the more that's going to be added to the testing.
Okay. So what's your expansion plan?
Well, if we can get some funds through a grant, the areas we would like to provide resources, because the law enforcement impact input that we've gotten by talking to the various chiefs and asking them, why aren't you doing this more often? Are you interested? Everyone we've talked to has said, we'll do it. We're happy to do it more often if you can help us with the following. Where can we go to get the blood drawn? They're getting pushback from some of the hospitals. They need someone to do the blood draw. Part of the proposal we're dealing with, and something that's in the work even as I speak, in cooperation with John Peter Smith Hospital and the junior college, there is going to be a class that is going to train employees from various police departments, police or otherwise, to do blood draws. And it's going to be trained by doctors. I'm going to do some of the training involved in the class, and the first one is going to be opening up this year.
Is there some sort of certification in phlebotomy?
There isn't a per se certification that I've been aware of, but it's going to be, the training they're going to get is to be consistent with what is done in general by hospitals and other agencies that do phlebotomy training. And again, we're trusting the person who's going to be overseeing this is the same doctor that oversaw the Dow Worthington program that's been in operation for 5 or 6 years. The other issue is, of course, beyond that aspect of it, is the cost of, or the trouble finding a magistrate. We don't universally have magistrates that are always on duty. Part of what we were looking for in the grant was the possibility of finding funding to pay for part-time magistrates for the weekends. If we can expand this to every weekend instead of holiday weekends, part-time magistrates that would be available to review warrants from anywhere in Tarrant County, any law enforcement agency in Tarrant County, and that would be a second resource they need. And the third is the cost of the testing, which is something else we're looking forward to this grant for, is to help defray the cost of using our local laboratories with a quick turnaround as opposed to the state laboratories that are free with the 8 to 9 month turnaround. So those are the areas that we've seen, and depending on which police department you're looking at, all of them pick at least one, if not two, of those areas as the biggest obstacle to expanding this program.
And the grant you are applying is a state grant?
Yes, sir.
And the reason we did a briefing this week is because next week we'll be bringing a proposed grant application for your approval to submit to the state. And so, as you can tell, this is a fairly complex issue, and we wanted Mr. Alpert to come to the court and explain it to the court members first, so that if you had any questions prior to us seeking your approval to submit next week, then you could have those questions answered.
Thank you, Richard.
Richard,
Thank you, Richard.
Thank you all.
appreciate it. All right, are there any announcements or comments at this time? Any public announcements? Okay, pursuant to section 551, 071, 072 of the Texas Government, 074, 076, 087 of the Texas Government Code, we're going to recess to close. We'll return to take action at the conclusion of the closed meeting if necessary. Call this meeting back to order. We have no action to take today as a result of closed session, but I do want to announce again that we're closing today's court in memory of Margaret Whitley, the judge's mom, and Colonel Philip McGeith from Arlington, who was killed in Afghanistan on January 18th, and the flags are lowered for that. So with that, this meeting is adjourned.